Hey, welcome to Devlog 5 for my puzzle game Colorblind. So the past few weeks I've been quite busy making most of the music and soundtracks for the later parts of the game, specifically for Chapter 4 and 5. So currently Colorblind is actually a playable game with a lot of level designs and environments in place. However, there is quite a lack of detail and the models look very awkwardly placed together and it looks kind of forced. This is an issue that I'm still working on, so demolish subscribe to send motivation and that stuff. Also a reminder to wishlist Colorblind on Steam so we can reach 500 wishlists, thanks. Now as some of you know, the very last part of the game takes place in a space station. And I need to introduce some new puzzle mechanics because I kinda ran out of ideas. And I went with the most obvious puzzle mechanic, which was gravity. Basically, pressing these purple buttons will invert gravity and make you stick to the ceiling, and vice versa. This mechanic worked really well with the other puzzle mechanics because most of them were already heavily reliant on physics. And combining with gravity manipulation physics was just a perfect combination. For example, you can move different large boxes, then invert the gravity to use those boxes as a platform to get across different parts of the level. However, this did pose a challenge to one of the physics objects in particular, and that was the main puzzle mechanic of the entire game itself, the corium cubes. Currently they can only be used when the player goes up to the cogwheel themselves and activates it with their own hands. But since we are implementing gravity puzzles that involve physics puzzles and less of mechanical, I had to figure out a way to make the corium cubes interact with the machines in a physical environment. So my solution was to add these pressure pad thingies. It's pretty simple to understand, you just have to place the corium cube of that color and activate whatever machine it's connected to. I also added this impact shockwave particle and a little sci-fi sound effect for activation. Now on to the story and characters. If you watched this video, then you'll probably remember the two sibling characters. I forgot to mention that they are voiced by Kaylin Walker on Fiverr and my good friend Did Plexi. They're both amazing voice actors and really portray the goofiness of these two characters. The next character is Spencer. I envisioned him to be a very similar character to Cave Johnson from the game Portal 2, a witty and goofy little robot who rambles on about random shit.
When life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Make life take the lemons back. Get mad! I don't want your damn lemons! What am I supposed to do?
He would also have a very heavy Southern American accent and is voiced by Doyle Sanders. I designed his character to have a very cowboyish look to sort of complement the voice. Now if you didn't know, I've already released a free demo of the first chapter on Steam, which you can play below. Now a very common issue I had with the earlier versions of Colorblind is the save points. Back then, when you died in a level, you had to play the whole freaking level again and it kinda sucked. So my solution was to strategically add various save points at special points of a level to make restarting the game feel like you haven't lost too much progress, but still enough to make you replay that specific puzzle. For example, this level has quite a few checkpoints placed at locations such as doorways, so the player spawns at that doorway and not the beginning of the level. Okay, on to music and soundtrack. I composed my music using FL Studio, which costs $100 apparently. So when I first started out, I didn't really know what I was doing, so I went onto YouTube and I came across this amazing tutorial for dummies like me. I bought the basics of FL Studio. You should definitely check this video out by In The Mix if you want to make your own soundtracks. So after watching this tutorial and realizing I'm dumb as shit and have no clue what he was talking about, I booted up FL Studio and made some sick soundtracks. Okay, so that crashed my PC even though that was clearly a banger soundtrack. Now I don't know shit about music theory or any of that fancy stuff, but I do want to have some sort of motif or repeated melody to make the soundtrack feel more connected and memorable. If you've listened to the soundtracks that have already been posted, you'll probably notice that they have something in common, which is these three notes. These three notes often play between the transitions from one section of the soundtrack to another. I got this inspiration from a similar motif from the soundtrack of a Netflix movie that I recently watched called All Quiet on the Western Front, where they also had a similar three-note motif. And Wheatley's motif as well from Portal 2. As for the instrument that plays this motif, I experimented with a variety of synthwave and retro sound effects, and I eventually ended up with this sort of electric grinder sound effect. As for some finishing touches, I added quite a bit of reverb and echo, and here's how it sounds like in action. I was pretty satisfied with this motif and ended up slightly overusing it, but I still had a lot of fun working with it. Reminder to wishlist Colorblind in the description. We're trying to get to 500 wishlists as soon as possible. Also, I'm doing random shoutouts now apparently, so shoutout to XCO for supporting. If you want a shoutout, please leave a comment about suggestions on the game. Subscribe if you want to see more trash content like this, and click this video to be an epic gamer.